A quick editor's note from me. You'll see that the green lasers as well as the ion cannon lasers have not been updated. I am using older footage. Hello everyone, it's Apple here, and I wanted to discuss some possible upcoming major changes, the future of the mod, and provide an in-depth analysis of current version abilities and updates. Starting with the biggest gameplay mechanic, mining. Mining was an idea that Koryak and I had a brainchild of. With my mind gazing towards StarCraft and his towards Age of Empires, we set out to find a way to accomplish this. Koryak managed to find a way to make it work on a basic level, so say thanks to Koryak when you see him. I'm just using the version he sent me, but I have applied my own tweaks to it. The current system of only static mines is not something I find enjoyable, so I have designed a multi-income system. Players will receive small amounts of income from various buildables, capturables, and their mining ships. This allows for players to no longer be mine-locked by their enemy, which will consequently cause them to always lose the game. Early game, players are provided a basic mining ship, but at Tech 4, players have access to a much stronger mining ship, as base mining ships are fairly weak. Movement and accuracy. This is the next major change. One of them was the removal of ship accuracy penalties and overall hit chance, without a debuff applied. A squadron of fighters moving in a straight line towards a corvette and not being completely obliterated has always baffled me. As Peppy once said, do a barrel roll. I have implemented an automated movement system for anything smaller than a large frigate. These units do not have a lot of health and consequently should not be sitting ducks for a capital ship to pluck out of the sky. This creates a much more immersive and active feeling combat, as well as extending the life of your corvettes and smaller frigates. It was brought to my attention that some players would like to have some of these units stationary. I am working on a consistent way to provide this ability. Currently, how that is done is with the abilities system. All ships either have all power to weapons, all power to shields, and some have both. With these abilities, they do exactly what they say. If you apply all power to weapons or shields, all power will be directed towards those, meaning you also lose your movement. I felt that this was a fair trade for the moment. The only other issue is that the majority of the automated ships will clip through things. This is something I am working on fixing. One of the things that will help this, by proxy, is that we are reworking the collision boxes on all of the ships. All ships now also have the same top speed, the difference being how fast they get to that speed. The larger the ship, the slower it is. This works in accordance with combat progression changes, as your Star Destroyer cannot sprint across the map to save one of your buildables or another small fleet you may have. Large ships are fewer and far between, and should be seen as flagships of your fleet. Lastly, for movement, a major but simple change is that ships are extremely vulnerable when they arrive out of warp. A fighter can kill a corvette if it has its sights on it when it warps in. Hopefully that gives you a good idea. Next up is repairs. Repairing ships has always seemed kind of pointless to me in the EAWX world. If your ship gets annihilated within moments of combat, why did we bring a toolbox to fix it? With the implementation of a near complete damage overhaul, ships survive far longer than they used to. This allows repair ships to arrive on scene and make a significant difference before, during, and after combat. A notable change with this is that interdiction has been removed in skirmish for all but placeable structures. The old interdiction mines have been replaced with repair mines, allowing repair ships to deploy essentially on-demand repair droids, which can be used in a variety of scenarios as the repair ship can move on to repair the next thing. With repair ships being mobile, this allows them to repair fighters and bombers mid-flight. And that brings me to my next subject, fighters and bombers. Fighters and bombers have been useless in most Empire War Expanded mods over the last year. I spent time re-implementing the energy system and bringing back a true purpose to ion weaponry. Ion weaponry itself can drain energy from ships as well as tear apart its shields. Ion torpedoes can in some cases completely disable ships for a short period of time. Fighters and bombers have had major changes all the way around. Republic fighters and bombers are far tankier and no longer come in squadrons, but as individual units that hit hard. And the CIS has been refitted to what I feel is appropriate for the overall combat progression. CIS fighters and bombers are very, very weak, but come in mass numbers. Thanks to the help of our newest team member, we were able to optimize them so that we could have this capability. though we are still smoothing out some kinks as to do our best to prevent desync. Next up, building. As with the change to mining, construction was my next vision. Building structures to provide units, upgrades, and various other bonuses was something I always wished Empire at War had in skirmishes. While some mods do have this, I personally have never seen an appropriate system that I enjoyed in multiplayer. With this, player teams must work together to place key limited structures on the battlefield. These structures currently include a trade station, the Fighter Construction XQ Starbase, the Golan 1, Golan 2, the Orbital Jamming Station, the Orbital Long Range Scanner, and Defense Satellite Pads. I plan on adding more to provide passive and activatable buffs to nearby ships. Each individual player has access to smaller structures they can place for themselves or in defensive positions around the map for their team. One of these being the Anti-Fighter Turret Minefield. Building this at the space station allows a player to snot down a small, short-range, highly effective anti-fighter system to protect various structures and/or mining operations. We do have more individual structures in mind, and most are revolving around deterrent and defensive capabilities. In the future, we are considering having ship construction pads that enemy players can destroy. Having ship construction pads would allow players to build more than one ship at a time. We have also played with the idea of having specialized stealth units capable of slowly dismantling enemy structures. Range and visuals. With the Orbital Long Range Scanner in mind, and having the second longest sight range, we need to talk about why it exists. All ships now have the same visual distance, though some ships can shoot farther than their visual distance provided they have a scout to locate enemies. The main starbase for each player has the highest visual distance, as well as range in-game. With this, it also has an interdiction field twice the size of the furthest ship's visual range. This helps prevent other players from hot-dropping their fleet on the enemy starbase. One other thing is that you can no longer see any ships in the fog of war. If an enemy player drops a capital ship, you won't know it till you see it with your own eyes. I felt that tactics were few and far between with Thrawn's Revenge and Fall of the Republic multiplayer. This feature will likely push players to actively scout the battlefield and will garner much more thoughtful combat between opponents. Build times and costs. Build times and costs were something I have and am still taking careful consideration of. Build times paired with costs are two of the four most important features of balancing, the other two being damage and health. With that in mind, I've decided that gameplay should proceed with players doing their best to keep their fleet intact. Ships last far longer and should cost more and take more time to build accordingly. Creating a massive fleet on command is not something I've enjoyed. Outproducing frigates with super capital ships has never made sense to me. Build times between tech units is exponential. This puts emphasis on a player protecting their higher tier ships. Every ship matters though. Don't throw them away aimlessly. You can't spam a space station to death anymore, and no single ship can win the battle for you. Abilities. I felt that having too many abilities can be overwhelming, especially when combat is very fast. Often, I don't have time to activate the life-saving capabilities for my ships. The stock mod made me feel like Gordon Ramsay was yelling at me to put oregano on the pizza, but I couldn't find it fast enough before he would beat me with a toaster. Thankfully, with the extension of combat in our mod, we hope that players will be able to use the new abilities on ships to some degree for a far more complex combat. We are also applying passive short-term abilities for ships that are included, but not limited to, fire support abilities, SOS abilities, stealth abilities, missile jamming, and point defense abilities, and various others alongside the basics, power to engines, shields, and weapons. So, without having this video drag on for a century, and because I don't feel like getting arthritis from writing this script all day, I'll just throw in a few more things that are active now and that we expect to try to add in the future. Currently, we have all new projectiles. I have reworked every single one, from the lasers to the explosives. We have more sounds and more colors. We hope to add new units. We are going to be adding battle groups that you can purchase from merchants, and emergency half-finished ships in the event that your space station is getting destroyed and you need something fast. And last but not least, we plan on adding more environment interaction. With that, in my last video, I discussed wanting to provide a mod that anyone can play, and I have a few other modders asking what exactly I have done to decrease desync and increase frame rate. As our team is extremely small, everything we have done to this mod is extremely precious to us. From a business standpoint, it would not be wise yet to provide other teams with all of our techniques to optimization. Please understand that this is no offense to any of you, but to allow a nibble, I will provide you with something Elon Musk once said. If it doesn't exist, optimize it. For everyone else, this has been a near total overhaul, and there is still more on our chalkboard to erase. This whole mod was an accident, but even so, I want to make it the best multiplayer skirmish mod the Empire at War community has access to. Once we are done, we plan to one-up ourselves by doing this on Awakening in the Rebellion, while hopefully working alongside their team. Hopefully, you are all as excited as I am. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next update. Apple, signing off.